Welcome to Try Not to Overthink It, where we explore the intricate landscape of mental health, well-being, and everyday life. I'm RJ.
I'm Unique.
I'm Khalil.
Join us as we dive into insightful conversation, expert perspectives, and personal stories that shed light on the various dimensions of mental wellness. Whether you're seeking guidance, inspiration, or a deeper understanding of the human mind, this podcast is your safe space to engage, learn, and navigate the journey to a happier, healthier self. So today we're going to be speaking on the subject of reciprocity and accountability in relationships. This topic kind of came about because of the numerous relationship people or therapists that are on the internet that provide all of this insightful information on how to not be the best version of yourself in a relationship. Yep, you heard it. How to not be the best version of yourself in relationships. So, they're out here giving alternative facts and misinformation that are leading people down the wrong path. And so I thought it was important for us as therapists to unpack this topic and actually speak about it and give people the right advice on how to be the best versions of themselves in a relationship. So for me, my thought process on, reciprocation and accountability in relationships, I think that when it comes to a relationship, if everything that you do for your significant other is a chore or a labor, you shouldn't be in a relationship with that person.
Before we get into that, can we first address some of these myths and untruths? Because I don't follow none of those people, so I wouldn't know.
So you have the sprinkle lady, and then you have the drizzle man. So you have the people that say that, hey, you need to be in your soft girl season and the man should be paying for everything and you should be taken care of. And then you have the man, the drizzle man, that says, hey, I should be in my soft guy era and the woman should be paying for me and buying stuff for me and doing all these different things. And you have people just going back and forth.
So are people adults in these relationships?
Yes, adults.
I doubt it.
But I'm thinking, why can't the adults pay for their own self?
I mean, and that's my thought process on it. I think that as an adult, you should pay for yourself. But I also don't think that, like me and Anna were having this conversation. I don't think that it is outside the realm of possibility for a woman to say, hey, you're always paying for me to get my hair done. Let me break off $30 for you to get your hair cut. I'm not asking for a haircut every week because I get my haircut every week. I'm not asking for you to pay for my haircut every week, but damn, it would be nice. Like, yo, I'm gonna send you some Cash App for some Chipotle or some Burger King or some McDonald's. You make sure that I eat. Let me make sure that you eat. I don't think that when it comes to both of these arguments, I understand the core tenets of what they're saying. Of, hey, you want to make sure that you're not taken advantage of. You want to make sure that you're not being taken for granted. But I think that when you look at what a relationship is no longer about the individual parts. It's now about the unified whole. And so when we're out here sprinkle and drizzling, we're forgetting about the unified whole and we're only looking at the individual pieces and the individual parts. And I think that when, as you guys, both of you guys are married, I am not. When it comes, there's going to be things that, hey, as a person that's married, you may not necessarily agree with, your spouse on. But there's times where you take that L to keep the relationship afloat.
He does everything I want him to do. No, I'm kidding.
I don't even doubt that.
No, he does. Husband, go ahead. I'll tell you how we roll over here.
I mean, I think that, like when you, as, marriage, as with any real strong, solid relationship, there's going to be give and take. There's going to be some push and pull. Right. You can't always win all the time. There's going to be some times where you got to kind of take a back seat or allow them to be, as, me and Unique have talked about, sometimes everybody can't be the Beyonce in the group all the time. Sometimes you got to be Kelly and Michelle. And so there's a give and a take in a relationship, just as in marriage. And I think that these two schools of thought of the drizzle and the sprinkle, like I said, we missed that boat. And, whenever I hear people talk about that stuff, I'm like, what healthy relationship are you in where that's your thought process, where it's just about me all the time?
Well, the reality is they're not doing life with people. I think they want to be single. And
Mhm.
I was reading this book, highly recommend it. It's called Boundaries in Marriage. And in the book, the man was just like, the therapist told the client, you sound like you want a goldfish because you want a person to just be there and do all of this stuff for you. And he's like, you don't even want a dog. You just want a goldfish who's just going to sit there and be at your beck and call. So Sprinkle man wants a goldfish, and whatever the man, Mr. Cater to
Drizzle,
you,
drizzle.
drizzle, Mr. Cater to you needs a goldfish, and I think that Sprinkle lady needs a dog, right? You just need a pet, a dog. When I come home, my dogs, I am locked in. I'm all of their attention span. If you guys have seen y'all met Brody. If you
Mhm.
watch the podcast, you guys have met Brody. So Brody decided to sit in our last podcast.
Mhm.
But my dogs, oh, I am their number one person, and I
Right.
don't even do nothing. If that's the type of attention you want, yeah, they bring me their toys and everything. Okay, eat food with me. They're never bored of me. They're always ready. But when it comes to doing life with people, I don't know that you have to be just unselfish, right? Being in relationship with people is one of the most unselfish things you'll do, especially if you want a healthy and enjoyable relationship. Sprinkle lady, I don't know if she in a relationship, and is Drizzle man in a relationship. These people give off very single vibes.
Well,
Absolutely.
you never get the full background. You don't hear if they have a healthy marriage or a healthy relationship. You never get that. In all,
Or
in a
how
Do
lot
they
of
have do they have
or
a
how long they've
relationship?
been or how long they've been in
been in a
said
relationship,
relationship.
right?
Yeah,
You never
they
get
they
that
don't have
information.
a relationship. I think they talk about these vacuum stories, and yes, in a vacuum, anything can happen. Like in a controlled environment, as social scientists, we know that in a controlled
Right.
environment, you can manipulate the variables to get the result that you want. But
Exactly.
when it's not in a controlled space, you can't manipulate, and that's how we come up with research, right? Because we looked at,
Mhm.
okay, when the subject is taken out of this controlled environment, does it still respond the same?
Same way,
I
right?
think in controlled environment or an isolated incident, drizzle man might be onto something, and so might sprinkle lady, right? You want this. I think both of them are saying they want to be valued and
Mhm.
appreciated. Like that's the basis, right? It's extreme measures of both of them, but I think that I can agree that both of them want to feel valued and appreciated by their significant other, which is nothing wrong with that, right? I think it's wonderful to for a man or a partner to be doting on their lover, right? Um, Spoiling them with gifts, pouring into their love cup in their love language, um, surprising them with trips and clothes. And I'm not talking about man versus woman. I'm just talking about person loving on their partner. Each
Right.
person
Yep.
loving on their partner. You know, the partner cooking for their mate. Um, I'm a, excuse me. I'm gonna take it down the rabbit hole, Roger Mill. Get your pearls in order, okay? Bathing your partner, like loving on. That's really all like pulling out the stops with the romance. Right?
Mhm.
Right.
I think that stuff is beautiful. It's healthy, and when it is equally measured out, I don't mean 50-50. I mean both are pouring into that relationship without measure, right? They're both giving 100. It can be very beautiful. And then you do have a drizzle where the man is just like, oh, I am spoiled. My husband told me, mind you, came into the marriage cooking and everything. This man tells me 5 years in, because we dated 5 years ago. I forgot how to cook.
Yeah, he had to reach in his bag for that one. That's right. I forgot how to cook.
I mean, let's see. Cooking is a perishable skill. You use it or lose
I
it,
use
baby.
it or lose, right?
What do you mean? You forgot? He said, yeah. Now, granted, I cook almost every day. I cook about 90%, and I'm not talking about leftovers. Like, I cook a brand new meal
Right.
90% of the time in my house. It's on the very rare occasion that my family either has a leftover or cooks for themselves. And it's not because I think that that's what they deserve. I don't like leftovers. So
Right.
I don't eat them. So I cook fresh food for me. They just happen to live with me.
Well, so, I think there is a possibility sometimes where I had a client recently. That's why it's pretty funny. We were going to talk about this. I recently just had a client. He said that, he was in this relationship and he felt as if he was raised to always pay for everything for the female, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's not that the female couldn't have paid for everything, but it's just the way he was raised. And and it can be cultural, right? And he said, man, I spended a lot of my income taking care of this woman and doing things for her, helping her with her bills. Other things popped up. And, I always paid when we went on dates and I really spoiled her. And then he kind of let me a little bit into how he had come upon a lot of this money, right? He had an insurance claim or something like that, and he had gotten a lump sum of money, but he told her about it. And so he said, I think some of the reason why she was with me, and mind you, they ended up breaking up, is because she knew he had this money. And it's not like he wasn't willing to spend the money, but he said towards the latter end of our relationship, he was like, my funds were getting a little short. He said, I still took her out on dates and stuff like that, but I couldn't help her pay certain bills. I couldn't do certain things because my funds were running low. And, I could not expend that extra cash. And he said shortly after, the relationship kind of changed because he wasn't spoiling her all the time. He wasn't doing all these extracurricular things monetarily. And next thing you know, they broke up. And
she was just there for the loaves and the fish, Khalil.
Right.
She was a loaves and the fish woman.
Yeah.
You can't, if your sole motivation for being with somebody is for what they can, this quid pro quo relationship,
Right.
what can they do for me? That's gonna end very quickly. I think
absolutely
the quid pro quo relationships should be reserved for the bank,
right.
your credit card company, right?
Right.
Business relationships, not romantic or personal relationships.
Yeah, your job should be a quid pro quo relationship.
Look, listen for that. I come in and clock in, you gonna pay me that.
So, I mean,
friendships and family, those should not be quid pro quo relationships. Those
absolutely not.
A lot of times should be altruistic, even service. Mm-hmm. Like when you're doing anything, if you're a godly person, like anything service related, even if you're not a godly person, you're just like into community service. Any service related things, and most of our friendships and family relationships, there's an element of service. Anytime you're doing a service related giving, it's altruistic. I'm giving, I tell clients this all the time, give from your abundance, not from your lack. Giving from your lack is a ghetto mentality because I'm giving expecting something. When I'm giving from abundance, I don't care. I don't need that back.
Yeah, right. You care less.
Well, I mean, both of what you guys are speaking to is the balance dynamic, where you're both equally moving in the same direction. You're equally putting in the same amount of effort and energy. Right. Mm-hmm. The thing about it, though, is where, like unique, what you were saying, we're focused on, like in today's society, we're focused on getting something in return for something. Mm-hmm. So I'm giving you money, so I should be getting something in return. Mm-hmm. If and one of the guys I subscribe to on YouTube, he says this all the time. A lot of people are only as loyal as the last time you fed them. Mm-hmm. And when you look at a lot of relationships, like with, both the sprinkle lady and the drizzle man, I'm pretty sure that, like you said, the thought process of someone pouring into my cup. But at the end of the day, where most people have gotten themselves in trouble, and I tell people this all the time, and as a matter of fact, I just had this conversation with somebody yesterday. We will move into the next phase of our lives expecting people, like Khalil did a mindfulness minute about this, about life transitions.
Mhm.
We'll move into the next phase of our lives thinking, with the old mindset. So you go into a new relationship, a new interaction, and you're thinking that because this person or this guy or this girl cheated on me or didn't pour into me, I got to get what I can get now. I got to get what I can get from them before they take everything from me. And I just kind of feel like when you go into relationships like that and you are operating from that mindset of I got to get what I can get, you're never going to be blessed like that. Your relationships will always end as a dumpster fire, because you can't truly experience what the relationship has to offer you if you're always looking at it from the standpoint of what I can get from somebody else.
Right.
Roger Mel, you're onto something, but I want to take it a step further. You know that we're all psychotherapists on here. So
Mm-hmm.
when a person does that, that is possibly a trauma response.
Absolutely.
Stick with me. In that,
Right.
when I am in this space of, okay, we know that when trauma is introduced to the body, it puts us in these almost catatonic states of flight, freeze, fight, fawn, what is it? Yeah, fight or flight, freeze or fawn, right? And there are some other ones in there, but those are the most common ones. So it locks us in these states, right, where I have to take. And in addition to that, when we continually find ourselves in these caregiver relationships of these traumatic caregiver relationships, then it takes over our attachment style. So let's really diagnose, if you will. Let's put these two people on the couch. Sprinkle woman and drizzle man. Let's put them on our couch. If I were their psychotherapist, I would say that both of them have anxious attachment styles. And they're anxious, and then they're both probably, where drizzle man probably has a fight trauma response, and drizzle and sprinkle lady, she may have some fight response, but she also probably has freeze. And I say that because with him, he's resisting everything culturally, right? If I open the door for the lady, now I'm not open doors for the lady. They're gonna open doors for me. If I was the one who paid for women, now I'm not paying for women. They're gonna pay for me already. They're gonna fly me out. So he's resisting everything culturally, right? He's in that fight phase because I feel like I have been pressed into a place that is no longer comfortable, and that traumatized me. Right? And so my way to resist the trauma is to fight back. Where then you come and you have the drizzle, the sprinkle lady, right? Who also succumbed to some type of trauma, whether it was childhood trauma or whether it was relational trauma later on in life, right? But her inner person says, okay, when this happens, I'm going to shut down. Don't ask me to do anything.
Right.
If you want us to have time with me, you're going to have to pay for my time.
Pay for everything.
I'm not coming out of the house if you don't do that, because I cannot trust this interaction further than I can see your level of investment in this space, right? And I'm not willing to commit to you either, which means I'm probably going to have multiple people around me that acquiesce to my freeze nature, because I don't trust nobody. All of you are the same, and all of you are dangerous and are going to hurt me. And if we're really honest, I'm probably just feel safer alone, right? And I'm a homebody because I don't like none of y'all, right? I hate all of you equally. But when we look at this paradigm shift in adult relationships, because people don't start off as a drizzle man or the sprinkle man. Right. This is cultivated by trauma. Well, how does that trauma happen, right? Well, how do we get to that place? Number one, because it's unprocessed trauma. They've never sat down and talked about how about the impact of all of these relationships. And so with that unprocessed trauma, how did it come? While we're not victim blaming, because I don't think that that should be the case, there is an element to us that says, okay, where does the accountability lie with me when the abuse started? Because you can have abuse without trauma, right? If I bang my toe up against the wall, I've abused my toe, right? But I may not have broken a bone. It may not leave a bruise. It may not impede my ability to walk. But there are also times when I bang my foot up against an object and I can damage that. There can be trauma from that injury, right? And so in relationships, there are injuries, but all injuries do not lead to trauma, which means that people are not traumatized. This is where it gets tricky because sometimes people stay and continue to endure injury that then in turn leads to traumatization, right? Or some relationships, even if it's just one injury, getting a blow to the head, getting a blow to your emotions, someone dismantling your religious beliefs, those can be traumatizing the first time, okay? But when we're not talking about that, we're talking about the prolonged, abuse, the prolonged thing. Wait, hold on, Raji. That comes from a lack of boundaries. You look at the drizzle man and the sprinkle woman, and if I were to sit them on my couch, I guarantee you, both of them had a lack of boundaries because homeboy was giving, and never communicating the expectation up front that, hey, I need this in order to remain in a healthy relationship with me, in order to allow me to continue being a giver in this space. This is what I'm going to need in return. And maybe it wasn't monetary at first. Maybe it wasn't service-based at first, but it could have been a thank you. It could have been, oh my gosh, you bought me this dress. This dress looks good. I'm about to wear it for you on our next date. Oh, I'm twirling. I'm telling everybody, my man bought me this dress. My man. And that could have been all he needed, right? To fulfill him and to allow him to continue to be an altruistic giving person. Sprinkle lady, because she was hurt, she had a lack of boundaries. Maybe she got in a relationship where she was giving everything. She liked the man more than he liked her. She was putting up with mess that she shouldn't have, right? She was allowing the man to mistreat her, cheat on her, devalue her. And because she relaxed her boundaries, because she relaxed her morals and values, now I don't trust anybody. Well, no, a part of that was something that you cultivated that environment. So now the answer is not being piss poor and demoralized. No, the answer is you need to restructure your morals and to develop healthy boundaries. When you come into contact with me, again, communicating those expectations and saying, I'm not willing to engage past this point without a certain level of healthy commitment, not monetary commitment. If you are going to engage with me, these are my standards. And if you're not willing to agree or abide by those standards to be in a healthy relationship with me, then this is where we stop.
Right.
That's
I think that I agree with what you're saying. Like for me, accountability is a huge thing for me as a therapist. One of the first things I always ask people is, how did we get here? Because a relationship is not, you can't be in a relationship by yourself. You're in a relationship with someone else or someone's else. So when you're engaging, interacting, entangling with someone else or multiple people, there's some decision making that was made. And the conversation I had with an individual yesterday was that everyone has a type. If you keep finding yourself in certain situations that are undesirable, you might have to reevaluate the type that you are interested in. Because if you keep picking Cooter Browns, you can't get mad when you get Cooter Brown results. So like when I hear, because I agree wholeheartedly with what you're saying, that when you listen to both of these individuals speak, you can tell that it like their thought process is coming from a place of, like, you use the analogy of the pendulum, where you swung super this way and you were all in, you got burned. Now you're overcorrecting and swinging all the way back to the other side. Instead of sitting down and processing why you feel your feelings and properly healing. And this is why, like I tell people all the time, therapy is important.
Mm-hmm.
We, not all wounds are external. Some of them are internal. And if you do not take the time to heal, process your feelings, process your thoughts, navigate through those things and unpack those things, you are then going to bring your calamity, your mess, and your trauma into somebody else's life,
Right.
and create a storm in their life, because you were never in a healthy spot to be entertaining or entangling with
Right.
anybody. And so when you hear both of these people talk about that, you're telling young, impressionable, and sometimes a little stupid people that, hey, it's okay to move and operate like this. But we're not giving people the full lesson of choosing to be selfish in a committed monogamous relationship is a surefire way for your relationship to end up in the toilet. When you are not tapping in with your partner, when you're not, putting into your partner, as Unique said, pouring into your partner. Now, granted, never move. Nipsey Hussle said it best: "Don't expect you from other people."
Mm-hmm.
A lot of us, what we tend to do is we tend to want to keep score. Well, I did this for you. If you are expecting them to match you bucket for bucket, goal for goal, point for point, you're never gonna have a tie game.
You just gotta date yourself.
Right.
Exactly. You might as well be dating yourself at that point.
Well, I think you guys are both speaking to reciprocity in at this point, but earlier on when Unique referenced the trauma and that response, right? Something happens and all of a sudden, we overcompensate for when we got injured,
Mhm.
right? I hear a lot of these people get online, right? And you can hear it. You almost want to sit back and be like, "Who hurt you?" Right? Like it's that
Yep.
simple. When
I say it every time.
Yeah, you hear these people because they're just so adamant about, "Don't you better not do this," and if you want to be like this, then they're going to take advantage of you. And I mean, you start to hear this rhetoric, and it's scary. But at the same time, when Unique, you were talking about the need to set certain boundaries because you might have never had boundaries. And we start looking at people's past histories. When I get a client who doesn't have boundaries, and I call them anything people, right? Because if you don't have any boundaries, that means that you're not going to respect my boundaries because you don't even know what boundaries are, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so it'll be so
Absolutely.
permeable. At that point, I got to probably stay away from you. And I have a few clients that I feel like sometimes I don't even want to have a session with them because they don't know how to respect my boundaries, right? So I have to teach them. I have to be in the role of teaching them. It's hard to teach people those things. That growth doesn't come overnight. A lot of people don't know how to have healthy relationships with other people because they never had it. Even growing up as children, they never had it. And I saw it in the young kids I worked at. When I worked for Pinnacle Behavioral Health, I was able to kind of like sit around adolescents who just had no boundaries, right? And it was like they didn't care about what really happened to them or to other people. And it was, hey, what can I get in the moment? What can I do to make me feel good in the moment? And then they were very defensive and they put up these walls. And so you get to see adults like that. That's when we know that they have not actually matured. They've stunted their growth after the trauma. Whatever happened stunted their growth, and they haven't been able to mature and have an efficient, healthy adult relationship. And I'm not going to say I'm any better. It took me a long time to get to that place where I didn't expect my partner to do everything that I would do. Right? I used to get my feelings like, man, I done did this for her. She ain't even call me and say thank you. I would get mad about stuff like that. It took me a long time, and over time, I matriculated. And in this relationship, I've been together with my wife for almost 7 years. We were married for the last 2, but I've been together with her for 7 years, on and off, really. But during that time, I went through those things where I was like, oh, I ain't going to spend too much money because, last time I did that, this person took advantage of me. Right. So, you go to the extreme and it was like almost like you said, you might as well get you a dog if you're going to treat them like that. If you're just going to feed them kibble, you can't do that. There has to be a level of trust in a relationship where, you know what?
Khalil,
Absolutely.
The thing is, and Jamal was talking about it, I think a lot of times people, they look at the outcome and try to make decisions or behavioral changes based off of people's outcomes without evaluating the process.
Right.
How did that person get here? How did that unravel? What did they do? What choices were made? Right? If I were to just look at, if somebody were to just look at my marriage and say, I'm going to get married based off of where Unique and her husband are today, that would be an awful thing.
Right.
And I think me and my husband are in a great place today. But that would be awful because there was a process that got us here that if I don't explain that process to you, you're going to get in a marriage thinking that it's automatically going to land you here. And then if I were to rewind 2 years ago when we were not in a good place, and if somebody were to take a snapshot and look at that outcome, you got married and then boom, this is her outcome. If they were only to look at that, and they would say, well, I'm never getting married based off of that, or I'm going to adopt this selfish mindset based off of that snapshot without looking at the process of how we got there, that too would be flawed because there were things that led up to why our relationship looked like that, as there are things that led up to why our relationship looks like it does now. But the process is the most important. Another thing, Khalil, you were saying how helping people to get boundaries is a hard thing, right? Teaching that is hard. I find that it's less hard to teach boundaries. I find it very easy to teach boundaries. It's harder to help clients cultivate a boundary-driven life. Because when a person does not have boundaries, now I'm doing the work of undoing. I'm helping them to unpack and realize the importance.
Unlearn maladaptive behaviors.
Why do we need boundaries? I start the boundaries conversation about session 4 or 5. And a lot of my clients start weekly with me or bi-weekly. So by session 4, we've only met. You sometimes in 1 month, we're already diving into what are your boundaries like. Quick story, I had a client that I'm not doing couples therapy with. I'm doing individual therapy with them, but they are married. And so we'll talk about, I'm heavy on boundaries with that client. The client referred a couple to me. And when the boundaries conversation came up with the new couple, the client was just like, yeah, my friend told me you were going to talk about boundaries. I was just waiting for it to come up because I hit boundaries early. If you're in relationship with people, I don't mean boyfriend and girlfriend. If you live in the world and you're not a hermit, boundaries, you're going to need boundaries. If you're a hermit, you don't have to have boundaries. I mean, I don't know where you're going to live in the world, but maybe you're going to be off the grid and grow your own food.
Or even off the grid, grow your own food. Yeah, you still going to need some
balance because you can't eat it all in one day. You can't use all of your soul in one night.
So what you're speaking to is pretty much what, like what people don't realize, like when it comes to making like a food dish. We'll use making a cake, for example. If you take all the individual items that go into making a cake, if you were to eat them individually, they're not good by themselves. But once you put them together and you
in a certain way
do all the in a certain way, they form something that is delicious. But those individual pieces that go into making that cake, they taste nasty by themselves or not that good. But once you put them together in the right combination and cook them, they taste delicious.
I told one of my clients, she was just like, oh, I'm dating this person, this guy, and dating this guy, and he just don't treat me right. I said, well, look, have you ever stopped to consider you are trying to bake an apple pie with peaches? She said, what do you mean? I said, you keep allowing him to substitute the things that you're requiring for your life for things that you don't want. I said, and expecting it to be something that is not. You're expecting apple pie with peaches as your fruit. I said, a lot of the same ingredients, but you have a peach cobbler. You're not going to have apple pie. I don't care how you bake it. You can follow the recipe to the T. Baby, you can put, because I know how to make apple pie from scratch. You can put the cinnamon in there. You can put the sugar. You can put the butter because you got to get it caramelized, right? You could even get the pie filling, whether you getting Miss Smith or you get baking it from scratch, right? And you can lay it in there, lattice it all pretty over the top, baby. Put the egg wash around the rim, but it still won't be perfect. it's going to be a peach pie. It's never going to be an apple pie. Like you were talking about with your cake,
Right.
Raji, how people expect I can just have them individually. Oh, I could just substitute these things and still get the same result. You're going to have something different.
No, you're gonna have something. It changes the overall product, and that's where, like, when it comes to relationships, there's things. I feel like the two most important things is, one, the accountability, and two, the reciprocity.
Yeah.
The accountability allows both of you guys to know that, hey, we're responsible for these things. If I said something, if I did something, I'm gonna stand on that, and I got to be willing to deal with the consequences or the positive outcomes that come along with whatever I said or I did. Whereas the reciprocity, everyone, we humans are like plants. You cannot not water a plant or not give it sunlight or not give it space to grow and expect it to grow. If you are in a relationship and you are not in some way, shape, or form, because everyone's pouring is not going to be the same. Because we're all unique individuals. That's where love languages come in. So everyone's love language is different. How a person receives love, and in comparison to how they display love, going to be different depending on person to person. So when you are taking the time to get to know someone, take the time to get to know what their love languages are, so you know how to pour into them. Buying somebody a gift who's not really a gift person, that's not really showing that you love them. That's not really showing them that you value them, that you appreciate them. Sometimes it may be something as simple as, buying me a candy bar. I'm a very simple man. As a very simple man, hey, little small things like a candy bar, some Pop-Tarts, a Rice Krispie treat. I'm pretty simple. I don't need a whole bunch of big. Yeah, listen, I can be bought for cheap.
Oh, he's speaking his language.
You got snacks, I'm there. But at the end of the day, nobody wants to feel like they're taken for granted or taken advantage of. And when you listen to both Drizzle and the Sprinkle lady, when you listen to both of them are speaking from the same spot.
Yeah.
They're speaking the same thing.
Good dating each other.
Right.
They probably would be. It'd probably be in there arguing back and forth. But at the same time, they're speaking from the same spot. But I don't think that it makes you any weaker or any less than to actually take the time to get to know your partner and make sure that you're both equally fed. Nobody wants to get up from the table and I'm still hungry. Right. That's the worst feeling in the world, to have eaten food and still be hungry. Mm-hmm. When you look at a relationship, like Unique talks about satisfaction versus edification. When you look at a relationship that is fruitful and growth driven, you are satisfied. You are satisfied. You are both satisfied and edified at the same time, because it tied you over for the next day, for the day after that, and the day after that. But when you are in a relationship where it's one-sided, again, I start to ask people, how did we get here? Because again, there's a reason that we got here. Because there was choices made on both sides. Mm-hmm. The person took and recognized that, hey, this person's just going to give. But then also the person that was just giving freely didn't have any boundaries, or their boundaries weren't the most solid. Right. When you outline the boundaries from the very beginning of the game, you are setting the expectations of what game you're playing. You're like Unique said in one of our previous episodes, what version of tag we're playing. We know from the very beginning, from day number 1, hey, we're playing freeze tag or this or hide and go seek. We're playing what version of the game we're playing. Everyone who is engaging in the game knows what game we're playing. You know what my expectations are. I know what your expectations are. And I think that we've lost sight of that in today's relationships, where we are not actually sitting down and getting to know each other.
The reason for connection is shallow based, right? If I'm only dating you because I think you're cute, or oh my gosh, she got money,
I'm trying to sleep with you.
He got money, and I'm talking about for me, like if I were to selfishly date, right, or have shallow based interest. Oh, he looks good, he smells good, he's got a good career. excuse me, we can have fun together. But after that, all of that wears off pretty quickly.
Right.
A person having a good job is only as good as it benefits them.
Mm-hmm.
A person who looks good, I mean, it only takes it takes your first argument for that person not to look as cute.
Right. They start looking ugly after they start arguing with you every 5 seconds.
When they tell you, no, baby, they not that cute.
Right.
Why are you telling me no?
No, I'll take it one step further. I was really into this girl one time, right? And so I was like, hey, we should do a Bible study together.
Uh-oh.
How about she couldn't read?
You're not cute no more. You just not cute no more.
She when she had to read out loud, I was like,
people fumbling on words.
Right.
I was like, sweet, blessed,
beloved.
You hit him with the beloved. But when you guys are talking about reciprocity earlier, immediately I started to think about how when I started going to counseling, right? And I've been in counseling for a long time. Y'all know I'm crazy, right? And I mean that in a good way.
Don't use that word.
Yeah, I use it because I'm not in the right frame of mind sometimes. You know what I'm saying? I don't sugarcoat stuff. I can be out there sometimes. But I was going to counseling, and I started to realize that my way of looking at things is not going to be exactly like my partner's, right? So my version.
Say that again, Khalil. Say that again. Yeah. Hold up. Say that
my version of looking at things, my perception is not going to be exactly like my partner's, right? So my version of reciprocity in my mind is a lot different, right? And I got that from when I used to work with the kids. In my mind, right? This is how I saw it, right? And you talk to the kid, you be like, that's not what I saw, right? She's not looking at things the same way I'm looking at them, because we're all different human beings, right? So if I put in a certain amount of energy, effort, time into the relationship, money, finances, whatever, all right, their version of the reciprocity can be completely different. And what I'm adding up in my mind is not exactly what they're adding up in their mind. Matter of fact, they might think I'm not putting in as much energy as they are, right? And I started figuring it out when I was dating my wife early on, because, like, she'd clean the house or do something for me, and we didn't live together. She would come over and stay sometimes, and she'd do certain stuff, and I wouldn't acknowledge it. All of a sudden she'd be like, you didn't even say nothing the last time I washed the dishes in there, or the last time I vacuumed, or something like that. And that was her showing me her love, her affection, and I didn't acknowledge it. And I would be like, she don't do nothing when she come to my house. I mean, that was my mindset. And I had a good therapist say, hey, look, you guys have completely different type of love languages, right? You guys show your affection differently. And I had to get to that point where I realized that not everybody's seeing things through the same lens I am. And that process was difficult for me. But when I started to see things like that and be non-judgmental with other people, and I started to see that, you know what? The way I grew up is completely different than the way the next person grew up. What I expect is completely different from what they expect, right? And so I stopped placing these expectations on partners, friends, lovers, anything. And you can't place these expectations on people, but what you can do is set certain standards. And that's what I'm big now.
And see, I like what you said there. You said two things that I wholeheartedly agree with. One, therapy. Therapy saves lives. Because the thing about it though is like what you alluded to. A lot of times you don't recognize that your own thought processes are maladaptive and are toxic to not only yourself but those around you until you have someone else point it out to you. But then two, that brings up my second point of the fact that having someone to bounce your ideas off of. A lot of times what we tend to do is we tend to operate
healthy.
Yeah, healthy.
Not homeboy, not your homeboy who'll be like, yeah, that's right. You should bust him in the head. No, we don't.
Because I think that the worst type of people to surround yourself with is people that will know that what you're doing is self-destructive and will allow you to do it.
Kanye.
Everyone needs that.
Kanye.
Huh? Yes. Yeah, somebody needs to have a conversation with him a long time ago. But, for me, I'm the type of person, I will tell you. Like, if it's a bad idea, I'm going to tell you it's a bad idea. But I will tell you how it's a bad idea and what we can do to not, be blowing ourselves up. Because at the end of the day, I've had those people that would check me like, yo,
Mhm.
you tripping. I don't know what you thought you were doing right here, but we ain't doing that. That's not gonna go the way you think it's gonna go. And I mean, a lot of times, like, you need that in relationships. You need people that you can legitimately sit down with and bounce ideas off of. And that's where, like, you know, like with Unique, where she talked about when she was planning on getting married, she actually sat down with married couples to learn how to operate
Not
in that
single.
space. You, not single people, you can't learn how to be married from single people, nor can you take marriage advice from single people. You know, you see that too many times nowadays where people will take their personal marriage stuff and be having conversations about their marriage with single people. Again, that single person, unless they are completely gonna be unabashedly honest with you, they're gonna give you the perspective of a single
Even if they're
person.
unabashedly honest, they're still just going to have a single person perspective.
Yeah, a single person's perspective, and I mean that. How can a single person's perspective help a married person make a better decision?
I can't make married decisions. Like I can't look for you to give me a marriage perspective because you're not in a married place. Just like if I'm a parent, I cannot look for a person without kids to give me advice about parental advice. Somebody would say, well, you have therapists who talk to married couples. I'm not giving you the difference between, because I'm going to help y'all out, because I know somebody's going to be like, you got therapists, men therapists giving women advice. The reality, the difference in that is we are trained social scientists. Okay? I'm a trained, so this is what my educational training has allotted. I've studied behaviors in marriages, in singledom, different cultural. I am trained to be culturally invested and to have a lens. You're not asking my personal opinion on this. You're asking for the culturally relevant scientific opinion. And that's what I give you. This is the same opinion you ask your doctor when you say, it hurts here. Your doctor looks at the scientific reasons for why it hurts there, not for why they think it might hurt there.
Right.
Then they may have 100 reasons for why personally they think it might hurt there, but they're saying, as a trained healthcare professional, these are the reasons why this probably hurts here. And therapists, just to help y'all out, a little segue. As therapists, whether we are married, single, black, white, man, woman, Christian, non-Christian, whatever, we are trained to look at your variables and say, how do your variables produce this result? Because we're scientists at the end of the day. We don't deal with chemicals like other scientists do, right? But we look at how those different components can have this specific outcome. That's why we ask you a lot of questions. That's why we do an intake. That's why we sit down and we say, well, tell me how you arrived to this point. Who were the people involved? What were you thinking during this time frame? When you tried this, have you tried other things in the past? And we use what's called evidence-based models to get to specific behavioral growth points. Because we are not saying, this is what worked for our homeboy.
Right.
This is what worked for me personally. No, this is what's worked for over time for hundreds of thousands of people. Right? This is what has been shown culturally when we look at studies done by sociologists, right? That's the study of people and cultures. When we look at sociological studies and we say, okay, based on this demographic of people put in these certain circumstances, they have these resources afforded to them. This is typically the outcome we see. People, as much as we are individuals, we do a lot of things the same. Right? Culturally speaking, pockets of people, if you look at urban people, not talking about race. I'm a case in point, New Yorkers.
Yeah, New Yorkers.
You can pick a New Yorker out of a lineup of anybody, and you can put 5 New Yorkers in a line, all different races, all different cultures, and there are going to be some similarities and nuances because they are New Yorkers, right? If you put a person from the South in a lineup against the New Yorker, you're going to be able to choose that Southerner out every single time, not because of their race, but because of their
The
culture.
mannerisms, cultural.
The mannerisms.
Mhm.
So people, the reason why we talk about therapy so much, and if you're not going to see a therapist, I'm going to break it down. Two things. I believe in therapy and I believe in healthy supports. Therapy, finding a therapist who is going to meet your cultural needs is important, right? Finding the right therapist who is going to understand that frame of reference, just like some doctors are better, have specialties, right? A man is not going to go to an OBGYN.
Right.
Just not going to do it, right?
Look, no, you're not going to get any help from me.
It's just because why? That's not that person's specialty. The anatomy doesn't match up, doesn't align for that doctor. Not to say that OBGYN didn't receive some training to look at a man, but their specialty isn't going to be there. It's the same thing with therapists. Some of us have greater specialties in other areas. Some people are great at men's issues, right? That is their clinical focus, men's issues. Some people are couples. That is just their focus. I focus on couple growth, couple development, couple engagement, and uncoupling, right? Some people are really good with kids. Some people are really good with women. Some people are really good with the LGBTQ population. Some people are really good with the BIPOC, the BIPOC group. You gotta find, okay, these are my issues, and this is what I'm looking for. Some people are general practitioners. Go to a general practitioner. If you don't know what's going on, choose a therapist as a general practitioner. And when you step outside of therapy and you're looking for healthy supports, finding people who are in the place where you want to be in. Say that again, and I'm going to say it slow. When you're looking for healthy supports, find people who are in the place where you want to be. If you're a struggling parent, find good parents. People who seem to have a handle on being a parent. Don't go and sit with the people who are struggling like you. What the hell are they going to teach you?
Right.
But how to struggle.
They're going to teach you how to struggle less.
Get in some parenting classes, right?
That's what I'm saying.
Do something.
Go to a group that is going to be uplifting to you. If you are new to dating and you're just like, oh my gosh, this is a culture shock. Because every dating relationship, you learn a little something different about yourself. You're like, oh, okay, it's not bad. What they're giving us, the math is math, but dang, this is giving geometry, and I thought we was doing basic arithmetic,
algebra.
Big fella, because I'm interested, but damn.
Right.
So you might gotta get a little tighter. You might gotta get somebody who knows just a little bit more to say, you're not seeing it wrong. You're not doing the equation wrong. You didn't follow the process, the order of operation, Buki. Okay? But that's why you can't have people say, well, I'm gonna just have a therapist. I don't need to talk to nobody. No, I tell my clients all the time, if I'm the only person in your corner, baby, your corner's laughing.
Right.
Okay? That's a problem, and we got to fix that one. We got to start there early.
I also think that it's important that you are checking the credentials of the people you are taking worldly advice from. Like when you have these people who are on the internet just out here just giving out free advice. Advice is like a butthole. Everyone's got one. And so
amazing analogy.
People are just out here giving you advice, and then like we were asking, what's the status of their relationship? How long have they been in a relationship?
How's that working for them?
How is this advice working for them in their real life? Because a lot of these people, as we learn with a lot of these social media influencers, what they portray on the internet is not how they really live in real life.
The girls was talking about bagging men and like doing all of this stuff. Remember that summer?
Scamming and all this other stuff.
When like the city girls was just real hot and all the girl rappers was real hot talking about leave your man, dump your man. And it was like 4 or 5 of them pregnant.
Right. So they had some. They obviously had some man. You don't usually get pregnant by yourself. They had a man.
I'm not giving up none until I get a bag. And it was just like, like I'm getting bags, not taking nothing else. And like for one summer, One was booed up, the other one was knocked up, one was locked up. It's like, hey, these are your heroes.
Right.
This is who we're taking advice from. We're taking sage advice from people
who are a little contrary to what they think.
Exactly, and that's where, like I said before, we get caught up in the illusion and the razzmatazz of these people who get this worldly advice on the internet,
right?
Without really looking at the whole process. We're just saying, oh well, yeah, that sounds right. They're saying it with such confidence. You're believing them. You're questioning your worldviews, and yeah, they're good actors. But I guarantee you, if push came to shove, because the thing about it though is, and I don't want anybody to get it twisted about what we're saying. By no means, because as a man, I am a big proponent of, if I am expecting any woman that is engaged with me to submit to me, I got to give her something to submit to. I can't just be a bum and then expect you to follow me. I can't do that. By no means am I telling you to just fall for anything. But what I am telling you, what we're all telling you to do, is one, before you just completely drop everything and just do these things, actually put the time in and investigate. Understand the person, understand who you are. And that's where, as I said before, with therapy helps you with that. Because for some people, who you were when you started a relationship tends to not be who you were when the relationship ended. So if you don't learn who you are now at the end of this relationship, you're going to go into the next relationship and the relationship after that lost and still not knowing who you are. So when a relationship ends, and especially if it ends, regardless of how it ends, sometimes relationships end amicably, sometimes they end horribly. You still need to take some time to process and relearn yourself. Because the things, who I was at 5 is not who I am at 35.
Before the relationship started, it's really different from who you are after the relationship ends. No matter how good or bad it was. A great relationship still changes you.
Yeah. Still changes you. Your needs become different. The things that you're expecting become different. The things that you want become different. Those are all things that you have to sit down and process. And so most of us, we can't process things in a vacuum by ourselves. We would need a sounding board to make sure that we're not tripping, as Khalil said earlier. Sometimes you can be out there and not even realize you're out there until someone tells you, hey, you tripping.
Well, that's the basis of a delusion.
I know that sounded good in your head.
Say it out loud. Does not sound as good.
That's the basis of a delusion. We've all worked with severely mental ill clients. And our clients who have who we deem psychotic are people who are trapped literally in their head. Right? I heard the voices. No one else heard the voices. I had this line of thought, this thought process that led me to these certain behaviors. And it's disjointed and it doesn't make sense. Because that's where they're trapped, in their head, right? That's the basis of what a delusion is. So are we saying that you are psychotic when you're not having a sounding board? No. But they can lead to some very one-off strange thoughts that can be delusional. You can have a delusional thought without being a psychotic individual.
Right. A lot of people have thought distortions every single day. Yeah. And they live by them. They won't let some of them go.
They live by it, and in some cases, people are willing to die by them too.
But the funniest thing that when you guys are talking about some of this, right? Earlier, RJ, you were like, "Well, yeah, you can't watch every show and take that advice from all these different so-called clinicians and practitioners and stuff like that." I'm the complete opposite. You can take all that information you want. Just know that when it doesn't turn out right, you need to investigate who gave you that advice, right? And what channels are you watching? What are you doing? You can do that all you want to do, right? But you're probably going to end up with a horrible result if you're not following a licensed clinician. Yeah. And I'm a hate on all them shows. I'm not as nice as RJ. I'm a hate on all the. You better not be watching that garbage. You better not take that advice, because that's the same reason why your life is messed up the way it is. if you're taking advice from people like that who
Mhm.
are made up clinicians. These people ain't real. You
They're
know what
not.
I'm saying?
Let's stop calling them clinicians because they're not clinicians.
Because they're not even clinicians.
They are opinionated individuals who have a platform.
And that's what's so crazy about society nowadays, as well as the internet, is everyone has a platform to just spew whatever. No facts, no figures, no nothing for people to be able to go back and research and go back and test their data. Because as Unique alluded to earlier, we are scientists. The method that she was alluding to is the test, retest, repeated measures, thought process, where you try something one time, you then come back and then retest it, and you keep trying it and keep trying it until you figure out what's going on and what's causing what. For most of us, what we tend to do is we tend to just make bad decisions based off of how we feel in the moment, without really taking the time to help process those things and figure out if that feeling is the right feeling or the wrong feeling. We're just moving. So I think that for most of us, once we kind of get to that point where we're willing to learn, we're willing to grow, we've hit our heads enough, eventually people kind of get it together. I know that's how things typically work for me. But we're going to end the conversation here. This is Try Not to Overthink It, signing out. I'm RJ.
I'm Khalil.
If you like what you heard and like what you saw, we ask that you like, share, subscribe, turn your notifications on because we drop content weekly. We can be found on YouTube as Try Not to Overthink It. If you would prefer to listen to us, I don't know why you would, because we are great looking people.
First of all, don't just say you.
So
We're all gorgeous.
listen, I can't judge the rest of y'all. I can only judge me.
With my skincare shining like this, calm down, simmer down,
Like diamonds and
simmer down, sprinkle.
So we can be listened to pretty much everywhere you can get your audio files: Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Anchor, Audible.
And
Your Mama House, the Dog House, the Firehouse, pretty much everywhere. Grandmama House, anywhere that audio file can be found, we can be located. So this is us signing out, and we will catch you next time. Peace.